Today, 3 men face the very first criminal charges in connection with the Flint water crisis. 2 state employees and 1 city worker stand accused of covering up early evidence of lead contamination after the city's water supply was switched to save money, poisoning Flint's largely poor, majority African-American community. This afternoon, Michigan's Attorney General announced the charges, saying they are only the beginning.
I've made it abundantly clear that our system of justice applies to everybody. It's not rigged. No one is above the law, not on my watch. Our investigation, when it is completed, will be thorough. It'll be complete. It'll be exhaustive. We will enforce the law.
Men are charged with a slew of felonies and misdemeanors, ranging from conspiracy to tampering with evidence to willfully misleading federal officials. And according to the complaint, all 3 men did knowingly and intentionally remove, alter, conceal, destroy, or otherwise tamper with evidence. In addition, the 2 state workers allegedly improperly manipulated the collection of water samples by directing residents to pre-flush their taps the night before drawing a water sample. And one of them is accused of authorizing a permit to the Flint water treatment plant, knowing the plant was deficient in its ability to provide clean and safe drinking water for the citizens. Both state employees pleaded not guilty. The city employee hasn't been to court yet. The Attorney General today said the investigation was ongoing and there will be more charges to come. Governor Rick Snyder, who earlier this week visited Flint, reacted this afternoon to the charges.
I've consistently said that a handful of bureaucrats had created a terrible situation in Flint from the beginning. If these accusations are correct, this would take it to a whole new level. And one of the things we clearly want to pursue is the truth. The citizens of Michigan deserve it. The citizens of Flint deserve it.
Joining me now, Congressman Dan Kildee, Democrat from Michigan, who was born and raised in Flint. And Congressman, your reaction to the announcement of the charges today?
Well, I'm happy to see that there will be a step toward justice. This is one step, but justice takes many forms, and one of the things that the governor needs to address is not just who are we going to hold accountable for what went wrong, but how are we going to make it right for the people of Flint? Charging these people with crimes might be appropriate, and a judge and jury will determine whether that's the case. But real justice for the people of Flint comes when the governor steps up and provides the resources to make it right, to fix the problem that he created in Flint. That's the justice that has to come along with the individual justice that will come with these prosecutions.
I want to talk a little bit about what your colleagues in Congress are also doing in a moment. But first, do you worry that these 3 individuals end up as sort of personal scapegoats for a problem that was created by a broader policy directive coming from the governor, putting pressure on people, which is not to say they are excused or did not do the things of which they're accused, but does it obscure the sort of larger systemic issue here?
Chris, that's a really important point. The question we have to ask ourselves is that who created the culture in state government that made the kind of behavior that we saw in these charges the norm? Who made it okay to think about these environmental protections as being something that can be manipulated because they don't really matter, or that the people of Flint don't really matter? There's really only one individual responsible for creating that culture, and that's the governor of Michigan. So while he may not be charged, there's no way to escape the fact that the way the state government operated is very consistent with a philosophy of government that this governor brought to the state of Michigan, and he has the responsibility for that.
There has been a fight in the Senate, particularly over funding for helping Flint restore and repair its water supply. This is Hillary Clinton's statement today on the bipartisan bill that was passed this week, the energy bill. Senate Republicans have pushed through today's energy bill at the expense of the people of Flint, who are still waiting for clean water, critical aid for rebuilding their infrastructure. It is unconscionable for this bill to move forward without this desperately needed aid. That aid was taken out at the behest of Republicans. What are you going to do? What are Democrats in Congress going to do to make sure Flint gets the resources it needs?
Well, we're going to continue to hold Republicans responsible. It is interesting. I mean, we don't want this to be a partisan issue, let's face it. But it just so happens that in the state government, it's the Republicans that are holding up aid to the city of Flint. In the U.S. government, it was Republicans in the Senate and Republicans in the House that are unwilling to take up the legislation that I have offered. And my bill splits it 50-50 between the federal government and the state government. You know, and so people say we're trying to politicize this. The last thing on my mind when it comes to the city of Flint is politics. We need to get help to these people.
Yeah.
They are American citizens, and they deserve their state and federal government to step up for them.
Congressman Dan Kildee, great. Thanks for joining me tonight. Appreciate it.